Hello everyone, and welcome to another Porn News Alert. I'm Alexandra Mayers of alexandramayerslive.com. Today we're going to discuss the recent death of August Ames and some of the circumstances that are surrounding the death that a lot of the mainstream media and the adult entertainment industry media doesn't seem to want to touch on or report. Now, before we get started, I want to send out my sincerest condolences to anyone out there who truly loved Mercedes, also known as August Ames. My heart does go out to you. Now, as of current, I've noticed that several online media outlets appear to be attempting to utilize August Ames' death as a bit of a political vehicle to push an agenda that, from my perspective, is incredibly homophobic and rooted in nothing more than hate. In addition, I have noticed that porn star and adult industry veteran Jessica Drake, from my perspective, is being unjustifiably blamed for August Ames' death due to some tweets that were sent from her account. Now, from my perspective, Jessica Drake did not bully August Ames. And you know what? If anyone knows about being bullied by individuals in and attached to the pornographic industry, it's me. As of current, I have an open court case in regards to both myself and my family members being bullied extensively. Tweets that August Ames initially posted, which led to what the media is deeming as a stream of bullying and hate directed towards her, were tweets that outlined some ideals that reflect the mantra of Donald Carlos Sion's homophobia and bigotry. Take a listen to this.
Hey guys, Donnie Long here, out in front of the White House, as you can see. But again, the structured adult industry that I'm in is, taken over by the gay mafia, and people are scared to stand up. I talked to you about this last night. Last week, there was a girl that came out on her Twitter publicly and says, "I will not work with crossovers. It's my choice who I want to F." And the gay mafia, a bunch of homosexuals, came and bullied her all over her Twitter to the point where she committed suicide. She's now dead. It was all over the news. And what happens to the gay mafia? Nothing. If a straight person had bullied a gay on Twitter to the point of suicide, that straight person would be sitting in prison for a hate crime against the gays. LGBT, they're all protected. They go wave their flags in the street and they hide behind their flags. It's bullshit. If a straight man bullied a gay on Twitter and they committed suicide, they'd be sitting in jail. Why aren't these gay people in jail for this woman that committed suicide last week? That's what I'd like to know.
This Craig S. Thompson stands for Craig Sterling Thompson, or not. Craig E. Thompson was head of AIDS Project Los Angeles.
Oh, speaking of that, do you know who Michael Weinstein is?
Michael Weinstein.
He's the head of AIDS Health Care Foundation in California. He is the one that pushed the legislation to make the condom law. Well, guess what he is? He has AIDS and he's a homosexual. He is not even in the adult industry. He created a scam organization, foundation he calls it, AIDS Healthcare Foundation, where he steals money from donations and goes and yells in the streets with picket signs and other homosexuals about gay, HIV, this, that, the other. And he's the one that got the government. He took Cameron Reed, Cameron Bay, Rod Daly, and a bunch of these gay and female that worked with the gays, actors that got HIV, took them under his wing, gave them money to stand up and speak to the media about how bad the adult industry is and how unsafe it is and they need to use condoms. He's the one that caused the condom law. But what he didn't mention is he's a homosexual with AIDS, and every single one of the people that were standing up there on Fox News and everywhere else were a homosexual. And that the HIV was brought into the straight industry by those homosexuals. That's never said. It's never spoken.
Though many don't want to talk about it, over the years there has been an extreme undercurrent of hate in the adult entertainment industry, rooted in homophobia and racism. Oftentimes, young female porn stars, generally of Caucasian descent, are publicly and privately bullied into not working with their peers who may be gay, bisexual, and/or African American. From my perspective, the tweets sent from Jessica Drake's Twitter account to August Ames' Twitter account were no more than Jessica Drake taking a stand against the undercurrent of hatred that I just mentioned. Both Jessica Drake and her husband Brad Armstrong over the years have gone to great lengths to create an atmosphere of equality within the adult entertainment industry. Jessica via her no hate against gays stance, and Brad Armstrong via his features, such as ethnicity, that present African Americans and Blacks in a positive light. On January 12th, Maxim magazine released an article which, from my perspective, blames Jessica Drake for August Ames' death due to bullying. I find that article to be incredibly irresponsible reporting, especially considering that I was able to uncover an interview which appears to be under the process of being suppressed between Holly Randall and August Ames. I was able to uncover this interview as of January 14th, 2018. Take a listen.
So tell us a little bit more about like August as the person. Like, who are you like when you're not on camera? I know that you struggle with depression sometimes.
Yes, I do. I grew up, and my mom, she suffers with bipolar depression and, multiple personality disorder. And she wasn't, diagnosed until I was an adult, so
How did that manifest itself? Did she actually think she was a different person at times, or did she just like, wow? She would come home from work and I wouldn't know what mom I was going to get, so it was kind of like walking on eggshells. And my parents divorced when I was 9. So I lived with her and I kind of bumped back from home to home growing up. And I have, daddy issues, childhood trauma. And I thought, moving to California, I'd kind of get away, escape all that stuff. But it doesn't go away. Yeah, wherever you go, there you are.
And so some days I'll be fine, and if I'm not doing anything, I'll get these awful flashbacks of my childhood. And I get very depressed, and I can't get out of bed. I had to cancel my scenes for like a week or two. Actually,
it lasts that long.
It lasts a long time, and I started seeing a psychiatrist, but they just throw pills at you, so I was diagnosed as bipolar, depressive, and also multiple personality too. So I take medication for that, but it was so hard when I wasn't on any medication, when I would just flip, it was crippling. I couldn't get out of bed. Everything had to be perfect around me. If there was a crumb on the floor, I would go apeshit. And I would just throw myself in bed, and I wouldn't shower, and it was just awful. And I have an awful relationship with my dad, and I tried to forget about it and talk to him about how I was feeling, about like my childhood and everything. Because there was a lot of sexual molestation, not from my father, but from his. And so growing up, I had to suffer with being molested by my grandfather.
That's crazy.
And when I finally told my dad, he didn't believe me. And I told my dad when I was around 12, because he was like, we're going to go spend the weekend at grandma and grandpa's. And I was like, no. And I broke down and I said, I can't. And then he said he was going to talk to his dad or whatever. And then he kind of put me in this group home after I told him that, it was kind of like I was fucking his life up, So then I was in this group home all throughout school because I couldn't live with my dad, and my mom, she was going through her stuff. And then finally when I was 16, I move back with my mom, but it was never resolved. The issue was never resolved. My mom believed me because my grandfather, he actually cornered her, you know, and so he tried to come on to her. So my mom absolutely believed me that I was telling the truth. But all my life I grew up being called a liar by my dad and his side of the family, and they all wrote me off and rejected me, saying that I was a liar, piece of shit, you know. And so I struggled with that because it gave me bad self-esteem and obviously, you know, daddy issues. But it hurts because actually just not too long ago, a few months ago, you know, I confronted my dad again. I called him up and I was like, hey, so this was never resolved. This is what happened. I want an answer. And he basically said that, you know, he didn't believe me. And, you know, it's in my head, it's easier for him to just, you know, he's living there with his family. He has a new wife and kids. And I've just felt like written off by him, you know?
Yeah.
So then I'm just like, fuck you.
Yeah.
You're not my dad.
Yeah.
You know, you've never been there. You've always been shitty to me. You've always protected everyone besides your daughter. And I just thought it was bullshit. So I just didn't feel like wasting my time on trying to get his love and affection anymore. Cause I feel like I love him more, you know, than he loved me. And it was so hard. It's so hard to be called a liar when you're 12 years old.
Yeah, that's
when you're
crazy.
Telling your dad that his
and you're going through something like such incredible trauma like that.
And it's, you know, and it was just awful. So like now it's, you know, it's still recent where I have to keep myself occupied or else I'll start thinking about all of that shit. And then I fall into a depression. But, you know, try to do therapy. I hate that word. I hate therapy.
I go to therapy. I have my therapist at 6 tonight, actually. I go every week.
I need to find one. Like I would, you know, get in contact with some people, but then I would feel badly because they would say, oh, what's your profession? And I would say, oh, I'm in the adult industry. And and then I would feel like they're like, oh, that's the whole reason why you are the way you are. And then I would just get turned off, you know. But I know I need to find an actual
It's hard to find a good therapist.
Yeah.
I really like the therapist that I'm seeing now. But
So as many of you just heard for yourselves, Mercedes, also known as August Ames, have been dealing with severe depression and possibly some mental illness for several years prior to entering the adult entertainment industry. Again, I don't think that Jessica Drake's tweets to August Ames are what led to August's alleged suicide. From my perspective, the only thing that Jessica Drake is guilty of is setting the example that marrying a pornographer is a good idea. Now, I think Jessica Drake and Brad Armstrong's marriage works very well for them. But unfortunately, marriages between porn stars and pornographers oftentimes are marriages to where one person is being severely abused and neglected, and the other person is incredibly self-serving and self-centered. Now I'm going to share with you a statement that was posted on August Ames' official website and blog, a statement that was posted by her now widowed husband, Kevin Moore. There's a few points that I want to bring to your attention before I read this statement. Kevin Moore had been an industry veteran for over a decade prior to marrying August Ames. In addition, Kevin Moore is over 2 decades older than August Ames, aka Mercedes. I also want to note that in many cases, porn stars do not operate their own social media. Oftentimes, there are social media management companies that operate their social media. Sometimes it's their boyfriends or husbands or agents or managers who post as the porn star on their Twitter accounts. In addition, I want to note that as of current, it seems that Kevin Moore has filed some lawsuits in regards to the death of his wife. Some of those lawsuits requesting dollar amounts that exceed $1 million. Kevin Moore's statement. In early December, I lost the most important person in the world to me. Most people knew my wife as August Ames. To me, she was simply Mercedes. Mercedes made a choice about her body, and she was viciously attacked for that choice on Twitter. That day, she and I discussed the things happening on Twitter and the individuals involved. Mercedes decided that evening to go to the gym to alleviate some of the stress. She then disappeared. 15 minutes north of us, the fires in Santa Paula started. The winds gusted to 50 miles per hour. When I couldn't get in touch with her, I became very worried. I went to the gym and she wasn't there. Then the power went out in our area. With no power, spotty cell service, and wind that made it difficult to walk or drive, I began looking for her. I called the police. I called hospitals. But with the fires and the power outage, help wasn't coming. I cannot describe the dread I felt standing outside, in complete darkness, in a wind so powerful it could push me over. I spent the night driving around trying to find her, and having no idea where she could be. The next day, the coroners contacted me. My world and her family's world were instantly shattered. Mercedes was magnetic. She had a kindness in her that I had never experienced before. I once had a shingles infection in my cornea that caused an erosion. I had to sit in a dark room wearing these crazy sunglasses. I was in incredible pain and couldn't do anything. More so, I was horrible to be around. For those several weeks, she took care of me like no one ever. There was no one like her, no one who transformed my life in such a positive way. She made me a better person. The night that she disappeared has played on repeat in my mind thousands of times. What could I have done different? Guilt dominates my thoughts every day. I hate life without her. It is a cruel existence, devoid of color. Perception shapes reality, and for a younger generation, that reality is social media. That day, she believed everyone hated her. She could not see past that. Social media has become a cancer on our industry and on society at large. This isn't the first death from social media, and it won't be the last. 2 weeks after she died, the police returned her phone to me. I was able to access it and was not prepared for what I found. She took screenshots of everything, all of the bullying. It is all there on her phone, including many of the tweets that have since been deleted. She left it for me to find. Since her passing, her family and I are stunned as the bullies now engage in blaming the victim. They use past events, things she was very open about, to deflect their own involvement. Jackson Wheeler has even posted malicious lies about her, knowing full well she cannot defend herself. As of this statement, Mr. Wheeler continues to take no responsibility for his actions. What do you expect from someone who told a young woman to take a cyanide pill and threatened her defenders with violence? If you fire a gun into the air and that bullet randomly hits someone that you never intended to kill, you still killed them. I write this to make it crystal clear. Bullying took her life. If the harassment had not occurred, she would be alive today. She ended her life the same day after the bullying began. To think they are unrelated is delusional. One isn't planning to take their life when they just bought a new kitten that they adored. One isn't planning to take their life when they bought plane tickets to see their family at Christmas. One isn't planning to take their life when they bought a bridesmaid dress for their best friend's wedding next summer. Her death didn't just affect her family. Unfortunately, other performers have been deeply affected by this and have in turn attempted to take their own lives. Thankfully, they were stopped. This event has caused a chain reaction with far-reaching implications. On January 18th, the XBiz Awards show is taking place at the JW Marriott in Los Angeles. Mercedes is a nominee for awards that night. The host of the award show, Jessica Drake, was involved in the bullying that occurred on social media. Miss Drake claimed she did not know Mercedes and did not tweet at her directly. This is false. She did, and this link proves it. She deleted those tweets and then denied that they ever existed. Mercedes herself said to me, "Jessica Drake hates me," several hours before she disappeared. Miss Drake has chosen to be a spokesperson for this industry. In doing so, her words carry more weight. Miss Drake caused irreparable harm by using her followers and stature in an attempt to silence and bully a young, impressionable woman. The deleted tweets show that she knew exactly who Mercedes was. Miss Drake could have stepped down as the host of the XBiz Awards and shown herself to be a person of great character. If she had, she would have cemented her stature as an icon in this industry by taking responsibility for her actions. Instead, her and her partner, Brad Armstrong, have chosen to threaten Mercedes defenders with a production blacklist. They view everyone who has defended Mercedes as their enemy. A young woman lost her life, and these two individuals are more concerned with themselves. Both of them are contracted to Wicked Pictures. Do Miss Drake and Mr. Armstrong speak for Wicked Pictures? However, there is information that has never been made public that calls into question Miss Drake's motives. In 2017, Mercedes filed a legal complaint against Axel Braun, who, like Miss Drake, is under contract to Wicked Pictures. That hearing date now approaches. It is my belief that the real reason Miss Drake engaged Mercedes on social media was as a form of punishment for her legal action against another Wicked Pictures employee. Since her death, neither Miss Drake nor anyone from Wicked has contacted me, which only reinforces that opinion. Those are the actions of a guilty conscience, especially when you consider my own long-standing working relationship with Wicked Pictures. The XBiz Awards either plan to ignore the fact that one of the industry's most popular performers has died, or have their host involved in some form of memorial. That idea is revolting to Mercedes' family. What kind of message does that send to all the female performers? That if your death is inconvenient, you don't matter? That you are disposable? If that wasn't bad enough, XBiz has also threatened those who have decided not to attend in support of Mercedes and not presenting their awards. That only illustrates the hypocrisy of Alec Helmy, XBiz's owner, since he has the gall to use her death as a teachable moment about free speech. If Miss Drake and Mr. Helmy are so incapable of empathy, then perhaps they should pick up the phone and talk to Mercedes' mother. Her mother is a veteran who served her country with 2 tours in Afghanistan and now suffers from PTSD. She has now lost her daughter as well. Mercedes' death has also put her mother in the hospital. At no point have any of these individuals put themselves in her family's shoes. Imagine if it was you that lost your spouse, your sister, or your child in this way. How would you really feel? Instead, her attackers have chosen to make weak apologies, followed by statements about themselves, in some misguided attempt to alleviate their own guilt. That is myopic narcissism. This isn't about you. It is about Mercedes. It's about her mother. It's about her young sister. It's about her best friend from childhood who talked to her nearly every day. The individuals involved in her bullying could have done the right thing. After she died, they could have chosen to delete their Twitter accounts and let those of us who are broken by this death have time to grieve. These individuals have the luxury to live, to spend the holidays with their families, to continue to work, and also to one day return to social media. Mercedes doesn't have those luxuries. That was taken from her. Mainstream Hollywood is having a watershed moment. This is a watershed moment for this industry. Female performers have the right to make whatever choices they want with their bodies due to the highly intimate acts they are performing. Period. End of discussion. No agent, no company, and certainly not social media gets to have any say in what a woman chooses. Women endure a greater risk in performing than men do. The women in this industry deal with not only a physical toll, but also receive intense societal judgment for working in the adult industry. To attack a woman for what she chooses to do with her body is misogyny. The women who choose to perform are the bedrock of this industry. It doesn't exist without them. Now one of the biggest, brightest young stars is dead, and that blood is on all our hands. The performer community does not have adequate access to mental health services. While Mercedes did have professional support that cared about her, it was unnecessarily hard for her to find someone who would treat her. Our industry appropriately emphasizes testing and physical health, but the mental health conversation has conveniently been swept under the rug. We need to step up as a business and make this a priority. Words fail me on how to express my appreciation to those who have defended Mercedes. To her friends and fans that continue to show their support, I deeply thank you. To those currently threatening performers for defending Mercedes, let me remind you that you can't threaten me and you can't bully me. I've already lost everything. There is nothing more for you to take. I'm not going anywhere. I will always be here to remind everyone what a colossal soul Mercedes was.